Greetings all! Today, we will be examining the relatively rare Steel Ghost-type Pokemon Honedge, its rare evolution Doublade, both of which are known as the Sword Pokemon, and its final, exceptionally rare evolution Aegislash, the Royal Sword Pokemon. The members of the Honedge family are among the more unusual of Ghost-type Pokemon as a result of their overall physical form and choice of attributes. Honedge resemble an old sword with a silver blade and golden handle, with a blue gem-like pommel. This pommel, however, is actually their eye, and glows brightly even in the daytime to show their possession of the physical sword that makes up their body. Attached to the end of the sword is a blue cloth with a swirled light blue design on the end and a number of finger-like frills at the same end that the creatures use as digits to carry their sword sheath, which is adorned with a triple ring adornment and fish-like cross marking, and is made of brass, glimmering a bit in the light despite looking old and grimy. They will usually carry this sheath with them wherever they go, but can equally sheath their sword body into it in order to hide from others or trick others into picking them up. Their evolved form, Doublade, retain the same basic sword form and shape, but the blue coloration on their cloth ends is a bright purple color with pink at the end, their eyes have turned purple to match, and there are two blades that comprise their bodies, with their arm guards extended on one side as a mirror of each other. In addition, their sheaths now sport less elaborately designed markings as a consequence of replication, and are normally joined in the back when the blades are exposed, held in place by a makeshift arm guard. Their final evolution, Aegislash, consists of only a single blade, but it is much larger than any of the ones comprising their pre-evolved forms, and it is gilded with gold and silver plating on the surface, giving it a magnificent shine in the light. Likewise, the end of the sword body is gilded gold, with a series of triangular grooves for gripping, and their eye has developed into a more traditional eye-like form, being dark purple in color. They actually have two arms instead of just one, both being of cloth structure just as before, colored black with purple swirl markings at the ends of their appendages, and in one of their cloth arms, they always carry a gilded, circular shield with a trifold series of gold ring markings with dividers splitting the shield into three pieces on the surface. There is a hidden handle rest in the back where Aegislash can grip the shield freely and pass their bodies through it when they need to take a defensive stance. The members of the Honedge family are among several families of ghost types that exist as possessed objects. In their case, they are formed when lost spirits bind themselves permanently to old swords left over from the Great Colossian War that took place thousands of years ago. It is thought that these particular spirits may have been soldiers that died during the conflict, unwilling to pass on and choosing to stay in the realm of the living in any way they could, to avenge their death or otherwise continue their practice as swordsmen for all eternity. Due to the nature of the objects they have chosen to possess, these entities have completely imbued their spiritual energy into the blades they possess, and because of this, they are unable to naturally use excess spiritual energy to attack with directly. As such, these creatures do not have the ability to learn any form of special attack naturally, instead wholly being dependent upon the physical attacks to do the job for them. This works well for the most part though, as their special base stats are all generally quite weak in the case of Honedge and Doublade, though Aegislash is a different story. While this might put them at a disadvantage in long-range combat, in close quarters, these creatures are nigh unstoppable, as all of the sword skill accrued from their time amongst the living translates into their possessed state, allowing them to use their sword bodies to fight off even the best of swordsmen with little trouble, making mincemeat of anything that dares to get in the way with powerful attacks like Sacred Sword. At the same time though, they fight with great ferocity and will always act to hit their mark in battle, even if it puts them in danger, explaining why both Honedge and Doublade can only possess the No Guard ability as their base ability, with no access to a hidden ability. Aegislash, on the other hand, possess the unique Stance Change ability, which allows them to swap their offensive and defensive stats when needed, allowing them to take whatever form is needed in order to tackle a threat in battle. The resilience of their steel-hard bodies is also reflected in their stats, as Honedge and Doublade both have very high base attack and defense stats, with Doublade in particular tying with their evolved form Aegislash for having the highest base defense stat out of all Ghost-type Pokemon. In the case of Aegislash though, their unique ability, Stance Change, which will be explained in greater detail in a bit, allows them to swap between incredibly high offensive and defensive stats. In turn, while their base HP and speed stats are below average for a fully evolved Ghost and Steel-type Pokemon in both of its forms, while it's in its Blade form, it possesses the highest base attack stat out of all non-UB Steel-type Pokemon and all Ghost-type Pokemon in general, and the highest base special attack stat out of all non-UB Ghost-type Pokemon and all Steel-type Pokemon in general, tied with Dialga. Plus, their EV yield changes to 2 in attack and 1 in special attack. On the other hand, while in their Shield form, they possess the highest base defense stat out of all Ghost-type Pokemon, again tied with Doublade, the highest base special defense stat out of all Ghost and Steel-type Pokemon, tied with Registeel and Probopass in the latter case, and the EV yield is 2 in defense and 1 in special defense compared to the 2 in defense yielded by their pre-evolved form. These strange blades might take some careful planning to make the most of, but they are definitely among the strongest of Pokemon of their type, and can more than make life a living nightmare when allowed to unleash their full power on an opponent. While they might be the weakest member of their family, Honedge are still deceptively powerful creatures that can use their bodies to not only cut anything that gets in their way to ribbons, but also use it as a way of gathering the energy they need in order to survive. Like many other Ghost-type Pokemon, these creatures need to feed off of life energy in order to sustain themselves, and the physical form allows them to accomplish this task by tricking their potential prey into getting right up close where they need them to be. These creatures will actively lay out in the open and withdraw their blade bodies into their sheath, closing their pommel eye and causing them to look like nothing but an old rusted sword. They will wait patiently until something approaches them and is drawn in by their appearance, even to the point of picking them up and handling them. Once they feel that their target is interested in their existence and goes so far as to grab the hilt of their blade body, they will quickly open their eye to startle their prey, and, while they are stunned, will wrap their cloth arm around them and use it to drain all of their life energy from them, quickly escaping afterwards to avoid any sort of counterattack from other party members if there are any present. While they can fight back with considerable force, these creatures prefer simply running away from opponents if they don't absolutely have to fight them, as their bodies are still quite old and are needed for them to continue existing, for if the sword is broken, the soul inside it will be expelled and lost forever. This can make working with these creatures a bit difficult at first, but they will eventually come around, as they come to get used to having someone else direct their actions in a combat scenario. When Honedge reach a certain level of bondage with the blades they are possessing, they can use built-up spiritual energy in the blade to divide it, absorbing metal compounds from the surrounding area to create a second blade, the two join together to form the dynamic duo that is Doublade. When this split occurs, the mind that originally occupied the blade is also duplicated, resulting in both blades having independent minds. This does little to keep them from working effectively, however, as they are permanently linked together via telepathy at all times, allowing them to coordinate their movements perfectly, no matter what the combat situation may entail. In this state, they normally remain in their sheaths, which are now fused together by the creation of an arm guard, likely replicated from the spirit's memory and repurposed to keep the physical bodies of the two blades together at all times. While these beasts might suffer from the same weakness of low special power seen in Honedge, they are undeniably dangerous in close quarters combat, as they can easily double team even the most accomplished swordsmen and overtake them with little trouble with their complex attack patterns, cutting through weak armor like it was tissue paper and tearing to shreds anything that dares to get in their way. However, it should be noted that this extra power does come at a cost, as it means that these creatures must consume twice as much life energy as normal in order to sustain themselves. But this is of little consequence to them, as they are strong enough that they don't need to rely on sneaky tactics to get their fill, instead outright attacking victims and draining the life from them in an instant without a single care. Trainers will need to keep this in mind if they wish to adequately take care of these beasts, and to pay special caution to how the blades work together. They can operate just fine under most circumstances, but they can become a hassle to control if they are forced to work independently from each other or are confused, and may unintentionally turn their blade bodies against those they are meant to serve. Normally, Doublade are unable to evolve and remain in their unique physical and metaphysical state for eternity, However, if they are exposed to the radiant energy of a dusk stone, the energy from the stone will cause the telepathic link that keeps the two blades of the blade coordinated to implode, forcing the spiritual form of the blades, and in turn their physical form, to fuse back together again. In doing so, however, they absorb a massive amount of metal from their surroundings, and their powers are amplified immensely, the metals in their body changing form in order to accommodate for a single new blade form, with extra metal left over from the transformation conjured into a gilded metal shield for them to hold as they develop a second cloth arm to interact with their environment with, ultimately resulting in the creation of Aegislash. On the negative side, this abrupt fusion physically and mentally limits the way that these creatures can use their bodies just as another blade, and they lose access to the tackle, metal sound, and retaliate moves, and cannot learn any new moves after evolution from experience without artificial assistance. On the other hand, because their bodies now contain a fused mind and fused forms, while their life-draining habits persist from Doublade, they effectively become twice as skilled as each entity that made up their pre-evolved form, and their gilded, massive blade body is tempered, increasing the hardness and durability of their blade body as a consequence of essentially being reforged in the merger, to the point of allowing them to utilize the devastating head smash attack. Moreover, they acquire a signature ability and technique that can make them a terrifying sight on the battlefield. Normally, Aegislash are present in what is known as their shield form, where they hold the shield that they possess directly in front of them for protection, their arms crossed behind their blade body as it is fitted into the handle rest on the back of the shield, so they can put all of their power into their defensive stance. If they go to use an attack, however, they will switch to their blade form, where they abandon their defensive stance completely by removing the shield from their front and exposing the main blade body, subsequently having all of their power transferred into their offenses and in turn allowing them to deal devastating damage with their attacks. If they need to return to a defensive stance though, they can do so by using their special signature technique, King's Shield. In using this move, Aegislash will coat their shields in an intense shield of spiritual energy and place it in front of them as a defense. This energy dissipates after a little while, but while it is present, it will protect Aegislash from all direct harm and will deflect any and all physical and special attacks used against it, effectively making it a variation of the Protect technique. However, what makes the move unique is that, if Aegislash are hit with a physical attack while King's Shield is active, the spiritual energy coating the shield will infect the attacker, weakening their physical strength and sharply lowering their attack stat, or about twice as much as normal. This entire package makes Aegislash incredibly dangerous opponents to have to face, and definitely not foes to underestimate in battle. Perhaps not surprisingly, their incredible power was recognized greatly in the kingdoms of old in the Kalos region, as it is known that they were often used by members of the royal family in those times as a symbol of their power, with Aegislash using their spiritual energy to control and manipulate people and Pokémon alike in order to maintain peace. Their wisdom of many centuries of experience also led them to be revered as symbols of leadership that could detect such a quality in the hearts of all that they interacted with, often being used in those times to determine who would rule after the death of a king or queen, by examining this very innate quality, as well as their overall sense of courage and intelligence in the minds of those up for consideration. Revered among both Ghost and Steel-type specialists alike, the members of the Honedge family are skilled combatants that can more than make life difficult for anything that can't break through their imposing power. They might be a bit of a threat to anything that gets in their way, trainers included, but with the right amount of training, these bladed fiends can make valuable companions and allies worth having around. If you're looking to get into the sword arts yourself, and are looking for an experienced teacher to help you master your skills, seeking out one of these ghosts may be your best bet. Just make sure you are prepared to lose over and over again, because any match with these creatures is not a question of whether you can win or not, it's a question of how long you can last before ultimately being overpowered by the unyielding and overwhelming skill and might. Thank you all for watching this video. It is always an honor to be able to speak with you all on the subject of Pokemon in a way that brings me great joy and happiness in my work. If you would like to keep tabs on past and future work, click that subscribe button, check out my work on DeviantArt, And don't be shy about following me on Twitter, where you can find pertinent announcements on upcoming work before it is officially posted. Links to both can be found in the video description. If you would like to support my work and help Miguel and I continue to produce more content for you and improve upon our presentation, please visit us at my Patreon page, which you can also find a link to in the video description.
Yep, no.
With that, I thank you for watching and I wish you well.